Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and today I'm going to follow up on a promise I made to you. Now, a few weeks ago I made this mark making tool. You've loved it, some of you have made it yourself, some of you requested that I make this into a foam stamp to be carried by PM Artist Studio. I'm considering that, I'm considering it, let's put it that way. Also, about 2 weeks ago, you saw me use this mark making tool that I've made out of cardboard, and you were all like, how did you do that? So I thought, right, let's just have a bit of a session and see if I can make a few mark making tools out of just regular scraps of cardboard, just so you can see the way I do it, because you know what, there's nothing better than something that's free. Now, you've seen that I use things like washi tape inners and tape rolls inners on their own and things like that, but pretty much there are so many things around you probably don't realize you could use. Now, before we get going, let's make one thing completely and utterly clear. This is a tool. No one's going to see what it looks like. No one gives a hoot and holler about how pretty it is. Anyone that's concerned about anything is just the mark that it makes. So don't get hung up on the fact that your mark making tools need to be all nice and pristine, that you've got to rub out all of the pencil marks, that the glue can't be smeared around. It doesn't matter. No one's going to see it. Okay, no one is going to see it unless you share it in a video, as I do, and then you know what? It's a mark making tool. It's a tool that produces something I want. So first of all, this is my basket of cardboard. Now, I have this, well, there's even cereal box in here, there you go. This is a basket where everything gets thrown, which is packaging or, no, that's part of a box from Christmas. Actually, what is that? I want to say that's the end of a canvas board. So I'm going to pull a few of these pieces out. I'm going to pull the smaller ones out because maybe I'll stick things to them. And then I just want to pull this out to show you something. Now, this is a cereal box. You can see roughly how thick that is. I'd say that's probably less than 1 millimeter thick. These are probably strips from the back of a pad I used. This probably came in packaging. I would say that, oh, there you go. That was definitely the back of like an art pad of paper I bought. This one's a bit thicker. There's another small piece, pull it out. These are the sort of things that you find in the backs of envelopes. So there's more cereal packets. Actually, pull that one out, I can demonstrate with that one. What I would say is when you're looking for cardboard to use for this, there's a few things you need to remember is how flexible is it? Do I cut it with a scissors, a knife, a trimmer, or a guillotine? The thicker it is, the harder it is to manipulate it into shapes. And instead of having a nice curve, you're likely to have a fold in it. Depends on your end product. Now, there's also in here, well, there was in here, let's pull those out as well. What's that? Well, that's the back of an art pad as well. Let's pull a bit of a thicker one out as well, maybe. That's quite a substantial one, that one. Oh, this was the back of the mixed media pad. Oh, this one I'm looking for. So there's also in here corrugated cardboard. So let's just tear a piece of that out of here, because then I can get rid of this. I'll keep it to one side because I'll dip into it. You don't need to see it. So let's just have a look at the nature of some cardboard things. So as a cutting mat. Right, these are just things that when you're going to create something, you just need to be aware of. So if you're using a knife, please be careful using a knife. I'm a trained chef. I used to use knives all the time. I have become very familiar with using a knife and will probably use it far more than I use the scissors. So, right. So this is cereal packaging, okay? It's quite thin. If I want my mark to be wider, I can just glue 2 pieces together and then I've got something that's double the thickness. What I would say though is if you're going to glue two pieces of something together and then bend it, it's going to make it harder to bend. What I would say is have them together unstuck, then bend them and then stick them together. That will help slightly. Also, as you see on this here, this was just, I'd say it's probably this thickness card. Now, when you've seen me use this one, every time I finish using it, I usually get a paintbrush and I'll run it up and down the slats just to clean them up, because otherwise over time these grooves here will just disappear because they're filled with paint. However, with this one I don't clean it, because the more I use it, the more layers of paint will build up, the more I get more of an organic line when I stamp, where maybe a little glob of paint will be on the side. It will build out. Let's see if I can see something on here. Now, I don't know whether you can see on the bottom edge of here, there's a lip forming. That lip is where the paint is building up. You might be able to see it more on here. So all of these little irregularities will give you less of a pristine circle. So anyway, so choose your cardboard wisely. Now, lots of stuff that are made of cardboard or paper have a grain. You'll find some will bend willingly one way, but won't bend the other way. Now, cereal packets are different. Cereal packets pretty much will break one way, but fold the other way. It's a weird one because they're made up of God knows which way the fibers go, but just know you're more likely to get a break one way than the other way. So play around with those. When I'm trying to do something that's rounded or curled, I know I am never going to get absolutely smooth sweeping lines. There'll always be, because it's cardboard, there'll be bits and pieces that are slightly jaggedy around the edges. I don't mind. One thing I would say though is always get yourself a paintbrush. If you want something to be spiraled or curled, wind it tightly around a paintbrush or a knitting needle or a skewer or anything round, just to start training the fibers that you want them round. You'll also see it unwinds itself. If you're going to make anything that's a spiral, which we're going to do in a moment, always let it fully unwind on itself and then maybe rewind it. You want to try and train those fibers in here. So this time, and this is the second time of rolling it through, I'll now roll it without the paintbrush and I'll be able to get a tighter roll to it. And now when I let it, I'll have a tighter spiral. So it depends. You will always have things like that middle piece is probably never going to have a nice curve to it. It's always going to have that little right angle thing. You could come in and cut this off if you want, or just leave it as it is. So just know there are things like that you need to be aware of. Right. When it comes to making things that are more random or more sweeping, let's just take a piece of this. I'm just going to cut down. I think there's serrations in this anyway, but I'm just going to do it like this for a start. Now, get that one to one side, that one out. So when it comes to corrugated card, the one that's got all of this, you can bend this and roll this really quite easily. It wants to roll as long as you're not rolling against the corrugations. So where the corrugations are this way, it's going to roll lovely. The other way, it won't roll. Or it'll roll, but it'll be a very peculiar roll. So sorry, just try to get this started with my fingers, big fingers. So just get this rolling along. Now, because of the structure of corrugated cardboard, it's got those pieces within it, which means you're always going to get slightly angular sweeps. So again, you can see it opens up, you're going to have a nice sweep, but there's going to be angles to it. But the good thing about corrugated card is that, first of all, it comes in nearly every piece of packaging you've got. If it's in a box, you've got corrugated card. It doesn't mind being folded. So therefore, I've just made myself an S shape. I can do more with these. it's lightweight. Also, because of the nature of corrugated card, the paint will go into it. So over time, it will become bulkier and bulkier, and you'll end up with a better looking mark when you do it. Corrugated card, although is quite flimsy, just be careful of that. So I think we're going to make this, and I'm quite pleased to be making it because I discovered something when I made this that I shouldn't have done. This here is 1 inch wide. I would say 1/2 inch wide is probably more than enough, 3/4 maximum. Sort of brings me to a good point. If you're going to make a mark making tool, it's really important to have the depth, or this, consistent. You need to have this entire strip equal all the way along, because if not, when you stick it to a flat surface, if it's not cut evenly, you're forever going to be missing pieces. So it's really important to get it right the first time. So let's see, what should we use? Try to find if I don't know what size I used for that. Let's just use a piece of this. This is quite a large piece, only because if I'm going to do one, I might as well do a size I don't have. Now, I would say for me personally, I like to use this quilting ruler to give me my marks because I can see where they are. Now, where's a pencil gone? There's a pencil. So I find if I make marks on the cardboard, hopefully my head's not getting in the way. If I'm making marks on the cardboard, first of all, I'm more likely to have the correct width. If I'm relying on my trimmer or my guillotine, I tend to struggle because I can't guarantee that my trimmer cuts perfectly straight every time or that things aren't moving. So it's your choice. I also very rarely cut a straight line with the scissors for the simple reason I can't cut a straight line with the scissors. That's just me, I'm sure. So right. So once I've made myself my lines, I now know that if I cut these, I'm going to be cutting on the lines. So let's pull. No, let's just do it straight on this mat. Let's get myself a metal ruler. Now, I know we're all adults here, but please be careful, we're using a sharp knife. Okay? So lay your ruler up against the edge of your line, just so you can see it. And this isn't a thick piece of card, so I know that I can just do it through one slice. If you've got thicker pieces of card, and we will cut a thicker piece later on, it's better to cut it with several sweeps of the knife instead of trying to do it in one go. Right, so that's given me 5 strips. That should give me enough for what I'm going to be doing today, for a couple of them anyway. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to recreate this one. Now, as I said, I'm making the walls. This was 3/4 of an inch tall, which I think is more than enough. Now, I'm going to do it with a paintbrush. Just to get it started off, I'm going to use a thinner paintbrush. You could use a lollipop stick, you know, one of those round ones for, what are they called? Well, they're called lollipops to me. I think in America you call them suckers, maybe Canada you call, you know, the one, they're like a ball and the kids suck on them. Anyway, let's move on from that one. Or as I said, knitting needle, crochet needle, skewer, and I'm going to wrap this quite tightly around my paintbrush. I'm trying to keep the edges even with each other, but it's not hugely important, but I will occasionally take it off and slot it back on because it will help if they are even, but as I said, it's not going to be the world's worst make if they're not. So right, all I'm doing at this point is just establishing a spiral. So as you can see, it is quite tightly wound. And if I let go of this, it will become whatever it needs to become. I find it really important to let them unwind because otherwise when you glue them down, they may continue to unwind, and then you end up with the glue moving all over the place. Now, to me, I think that's a little bit too tight. So I'm just going to unwind it slightly. The reason I'm being a little loose with this one is if the center is too tight, the first time you use it is going to clog up with paint, and then it's just going to be one blob in the middle. So see, that's a better shape now. Okay, so just, I'm going to leave that there for a second while I do the next bit. Just let it relax. It'll help you no end. Now, I need a base to put that on because I'm going to be stamping with it. I want to make sure that I've got something substantial to hold it in place. It looks about, is it going to sit on there? Yeah, I can probably get it on there. Right, and another piece just a little bit more perfect. Maybe that one. Right. Now, when it comes to glue, put that by because I'll stab myself with it. When it comes to glue, you've got options. There's high-tack glue, there's hot glue, like a hot glue gun. I very rarely use a hot glue gun because it's a hot glue gun and I sometimes burn myself with it. And my favorite is to use Fabri-Tac. You can use whichever glue you wish to use. I would say don't use a glue stick for this because I don't know that it would actually give you what you're expecting. High-tack glue is quite good. It's a little slower drying, but what it does is once it's actually dry, it's dry. It's a bit like Fabri-Tac. It's clear when it's dry. So I've got this, and I now know that it sits on here. Now, part of the reason I wanted that there is because I'm now going to glue this onto it. In fact, I might glue it onto this side. And once it's glued on there, you need to let it rest. So completely up to you how you do this. I tend to come in and I try to put, oh, can you see you can? I try to put quite a thick line on the back of all of the card. I could just smear it over the base, but I like the fact that it holds its own. And I don't mind if it drips just slightly. I'll plop that over and just let it sit. Let it find its level. Give it a slight tap. Now what I'm going to do is you've got options here. Let's put the lid back on that before I do something stupid. If you've got something with a little bit of weight, like here's an ink pad, I will sit an ink pad on top of that and just let it dry totally. And I'm going to come back to it later. And the reason I want that little bit of weight is because that means that the base of every part of that spiral is pushed down into the glue and will dry. So let me just move that to one side, put it down again. Here's corrugated card, same sort of process, and I've made a larger mark making tool. I haven't even used it yet. And I just stuck them to a bigger piece of card, and that's ready to go now. I can use that for maybe my art journal or something, just to give me something to play with. So, right, what's one of the next ones I want to do? Okay, let's talk about different sorts of shapes. Where's that piece gone? Right, okay, let's just trim that edge off there, because that's going to annoy me. Right, now we all think of doing all these fancy shapes, but don't forget, a lot of the things we like to see are just regular geometric shapes. So I'm going to come in, take one of my strips. Now, how big do I want them? Are you guys going to need a measurement off me? Let's see. Right, if I make this 1.5 inches, say, I'm going to chop that off there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it into thirds and fold that one over again. Okay, you see what I've done? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up, and I've just made a triangle. I'm going to get myself a little bit of sticky tape. Oh, And I'm going to stick my sticky tape in the middle so it's not protruding above or below. And that's made myself a triangle. So I'm going to make a couple more of those. They don't all have to be exactly the same size, but I am going to make a few of them just because it'll show you that with just simple techniques, you can come up with some interesting designs. The secret again is that the height of your card is always the same height. Bear with me, just chop that last one. So it's really quite a quick process, guys. And they don't have to be equilateral. They don't have to be anything like that. I don't even mind, like that one's a bit squiffy. Doesn't matter to me. I'll tape them all in a minute. Just as long as the edges match up when I tape them together, that's all that matters to me. This is a great way to build your stash of mark making tools without having to break the bank to do it. Right, so we've now got all of our little triangles done. Now I'm going to do the gluing down slightly different this time, because those would be far too fiddly to do the edges of each of them. I'm literally going to come on my Fabri-Tac. I'm putting a reasonably good thick coating of it, because if it stays and I like it, this mark making tool could last me a couple of years, if not longer. I'll put the lid back on there. And I'm literally going to come in and place my pieces down within it. Giving them a little bit of a press down. Now again, as I said, I'm going to put a little bit of a weight on the top of this, or something sitting on it, just to hold it so everything is pressed down into this glue. If you're worried that things aren't going to be sticking for you, there is, shall I put that bit there? Why you not look even? This one doesn't seem to want to stick. Why aren't you sticking? There's always one, isn't there, people? There's always one. But you know what? There's more than one way to get them. Right, you will stick there. So there you go. We've just made another mark making tool. Now, if you are worried that things aren't sticking down, once they've been stuck the first time, you can always come back and drop a bit of glue into them, like a liquid glue, and it will settle into the bottom and fill them up. So I'm just going to put this under something to be pressed down. So there you go. So we've done that one. Now, the same principle could be used. I'm not going to do this one because I've already got a foam stamp that does this, but just the same principle. If you cut yourself a piece, you fold that piece in half, and make sure it is in half, then open it up, fold those two pieces to the center, and remember it's a mark making tool. If I want absolutely perfect, I would go and buy something that does it. So once I've got that folded in, if I go back to my tape thing, put a tape on that, tape the two ends together. Now, I either have diamonds or I have squares. So again, I could do the same that I've just done. I like the wonky look. If I want it absolutely perfect, I would come in with a score tool and put it down all the way along, but over time that will build up. That's an interesting organic shape for me. Right, there's one I wanted to do for quite a while, which I haven't done, and it's on my list to do. Now, I'm not sure how big I want these, so we're going to be a little bit experimental with this one, guys. I'm going to assume it's about 2 inches. Yeah, about there. Right. Bear with me, not done this one before, but it's been in the back of my mind ticking away and I thought I wanted to try it. So I'm going to fold this in half, making sure the ends are together, and give it a good squish. So I think I may need to do it bigger than that, but we'll see. Then I'm going to take a small stapler. I haven't got a Tim Holtz tiny attacher. This is just my local stationery store. You can use a bigger stapler. Just make sure the staple isn't wider than that. I'm going to come in about probably a quarter of the way, and I'm going to punch a staple in it. Once the staple's in there, I'm going to open this up again. And then this piece here, let's see if I can get a pencil. If I come in with a pencil and push my pencil through here to open it up, I've created a little fish. So I'm going to make some of these now. I think I'd like to do it a bit bigger than that. So let's try 3 inches. We might use the small ones as well. But I just wanted to play around with that idea. So again, done that. Fold it equally. Come in with my stapler. I'd say probably a quarter looking at this. Give it a bit of a stomp with the stapler. This is where those of us with fingernails benefit. I always seem to cut my fingernails just before filming, which is not the greatest of ideas. So that's the tail sorted out. And then I'm going to come in with the pencil and open up the middle. That's a better size, 3 inches. Now, for gluing, I may need to put something in there to hold it open. Like this one is closing up. So what I would do is, let's just take a piece of the corrugated card I've got. I would just slot in corrugated card into there to hold it open. And then I glue it down, and then once it was totally set, I could pull this piece out. So just know that's how I would cope with that. I think we can do with a few more of those. What length is this? That's almost 4. Let's have a big fish as well. I think I want 5 fish. Don't know why, I just think I want 5 fish. Open up the tail. This one, because it's a bit bigger, I can just open it up with my fingers. And of course, once you put them down, this shape will tell everybody it's a fish. I'll put a little dot of an eye in there, and that'll be fine. Now I need a bit of, now these would be in a shoal, wouldn't they? I need a bigger piece than that. Let's use this one here. I can always trim down my base afterwards. Let's go about. Hopefully I'm in shot for all of this. I haven't been considering that in the slightest. Yes, right. As I said, I can always, after I've done this, chop the end of this if I wanted to. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to place my biggest fish first. This time I'm just going to do what I did before, put the glue directly onto the card itself. Put my fish down, give it a good little press. Any glue strings, which there will be some if you're using this, and there'll definitely be glue strings if you're using hot glue. They can always be taken away afterwards. Are you level? You are level. Let's open your tail out a bit. I mean, basically, this technique is absolutely endless. It's whatever you wish it to be. Like, you could do straight lines, you could put verticals, you could make a grid, you could do anything like that, guys. Whatever your mind can come up with and you can form your cardboard into, then there you go, you can make a stamp that way. Right. So I'll chop that bit off afterwards. I think that's okay. Yes, let's put that down to one side. So right, we've done that. Now, let's think about another resource that you might have in the house other than cardboard. And that is drinking straws. Now, I picked this up in my local grocery store, and believe me, it was £1 for 30 of them. So I'm going to pull some of these out. Let's just pull a handful of them out. Now, what I want to do is I want to cut them, and I want to make sure that I've cut them and I'm using the perfect, I want to use the perfect end. I don't want the cut end. So I do want to cut these, I'd say probably about an inch would do, I think. Yeah, so I'm just going to line that up and take my scissors and give it a chop. Now, chopping it is going to squish it. Leave the squished end squished, because then you'll know which is the best end. So each of these needs to be an inch, or should I say they need to be equal in size. Now, the one I've already chopped, I'm going to put to one side, because I know I'm not going to get a perfectly flat end because I've cut it with the scissors. But I do have something else we can do with that. Oh, it's the yellow one, isn't it? So I'm going to continue and cut the ends off all of these, and I'll be back in a few minutes. So that's all my lengths cut. So I'll push those to one side a minute. Now, when it comes to these, you're going to go, but Ceri, you can't waste those. You're right, and I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do is, where have I put that pencil? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and push a pencil into the end, just to round these out again. Not that they're going to be mark making at the round end. However, what I have in mind, if I leave it so that this point's sticking up, it could make a mark I don't want. So I'm just going to come in and re-establish the rounds. Right, that's the round of all of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get myself a piece of card that's longer or wider than my straws. I'm just going to come in, and again, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac for this just because I am. I mean, I could open up my tacky glue, but I'm not going to, because I've been using Fabri-Tac all the way along. I'm going to put a line of glue along my straw, and I'm going to glue it down. Gentle press will hold it in place. I'm just going to come down and put a line of straws all the way down this piece of card. Now, because we like things to be interesting, because we're artists, stagger them a little bit. I mean, maybe there's a gap between, whichever you feel like doing. You'd be quite surprised how robust these things become once you've been using for a while and they've got a layer of paint. Worst case scenario, something pops off, stick it back down again. As I said, we'll try and use every one of the ones that we've created today. I've got some postcard blanks, not blanks, postcard backs that I pulled out of my stash to play with. Doesn't matter if the glue squishes out underneath the straw. Worst case scenario is it's going to squish onto the straw next to it and make it more robust. Now with this one, I would probably just leave it on a flat surface. I wouldn't bother to put anything on top of it because these are machine made, these straws. They're not cut by us. So it does mean that the gravity alone should keep them all in the right position. I'm just hoping everything dries quick enough for me to be able to finish this video. And we're done. As I said, make sure you give them just a gentle press. They will all be held in place, and then just let that one sit to fully dry. Right, on to the reason I did all of these. Now you're going to need a little bit more equipment with this one, but not a huge amount. I would suggest get yourself a piece of plastic. This is a, what do you call these, page protectors, I think you call them. I'm just going to find my scissors and take a small square of this. It could be a plastic bag that you use. It could be anything. What you need is you need to create something to build this stamp upon, so that if the glue goes through, it doesn't stick to your work surface, is what I'm trying to get at. So I know it's not the, oh, I can cut that in half really, couldn't I? I know it's probably not the easiest thing to see. In fact, I know it's not the easiest thing to see, it's transparent, but you'll get where I'm going. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inside of a washi tube, a washi tape tube, or it could be anything that you find that is round. I'm using this because I've deconstructed something else. Then I'm going to look at my pieces and I can see which is the snipped end and which is the non-snipped end. I'm literally going to come in with a little bit of glue and stand it up against the edge of this. And the reason I'm standing it up is because all of the flat edges then will be in line with the flat edge of the bottom of this cardboard roll. I'm not putting the glue all the way down to the bottom purely because I know that over time, well, not over time, the first time I use this, paint is going to get those all stuck together for me. So I'm just going to come in. Remember, the ugly end goes up. This is one of the more fiddly ones to do, but it's worth doing. You only need to do it once, unless you want variation in sizes. I find I struggle a bit because I've got big fingers, guys, so you with the delicate fingers out there can probably do this far easier than I can. It gets easier the more you fill it, because there's so many places they can slip around to. If you're going to move it by moving the plastic. Don't twist the actual thing itself. I find that every now and then I just get into the mode where I get a little bored with my mark making tools. I'm like, I'm going to make some mark making tools, and I'll dedicate maybe a morning to making these. I mean, this video is probably close to an hour, maybe a little bit longer. Depends on how long using them is going to be when I demonstrate them, but the making of these for what we've made It's probably less than an hour for you to make all of these, and then you've got them. So I'm just going to pause you, and I'm going to go on, and I'm going to fill this all the way in now. I'm going to keep going around, slotting these straws in wherever I can. I'm not looking for them to be absolutely uniform, because I don't know that they're all going to fit perfectly into this space. So just be a little kind to yourself. Periodically, just press it down so things are going down. So I'll be back in 2 seconds, guys. And I'm back. So this one is all done now. I mean, I'll turn it up so you can see it that way. I don't want to take it off the plastic. Just give it a bit of a press down. I did have a few spare pieces, so I've just popped them into the edge of this little one, just to see if I can make a different sort of mark making tool. I've got nothing to lose. They were spares anyway. So here I'm back again. Okay, it's only been about 15 minutes since I made the last one, which was this one. I'm taking a bit of a risk, so I would normally advise let them dry overnight to fully dry so they're more robust. But I'm going to have a go at using them now, because I don't want to film the other half of this tomorrow morning. So what did we make? We made a new spiral. Now I've got this on a square. I may very easily cut the corners off this so that I can actually have it more rounded to work with. I made my little cluster of triangles. I can feel the glue on here is just slightly tacky, but it should be okay with it. This was the big spiral. I made it this morning, but I didn't make it on video because it's the same principle as this, although I just did it with corrugated card. I also stuck down all of those straws, which will give me another effect. I filled in these. Now these are still drying, but we're going to have a go at them. I peeled the plastic off because the plastic was on the other end in case the glue came through. And then there's this little second thought one or afterthought one, which I just had these spare 6 left over. I thought, let's just use it. These could have been shorter, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use it for mark making. And then my favorite, which is one I really wanted to make, was fish one. So anyway, let's get on and make some of these. And I think I'm going to do those 2 last, because I'm not sure that everything is completely and utterly dry. I'm going to start with this one. Now, I'm using a gel plate, and I'm using a brayer, and I'm using acrylic paint, because that's the way I normally do it. I don't make these with the intention of using them with inks. I only use them with the intention of using them with paint, and that's where it works best for me. I also find I get better results with sort of a medium consistency paint. Like I find really thin runny paints like the liquid ones, the high flow ones, are not as good. I like my paints to be basically in the tube. So, and they're a bit more thicker consistency, and they're more likely to clump up and give me better results. So if I didn't have a brayer and I didn't have this, I would just get a store card. I'd have a palette, I'd put some paint down, and I would just smear the paint with this to have a thin layer to use as my ink pad. So let's give this puppy a go. Now, I have this background that I made a while ago, and I'm just going to put this onto it to see whether it works or not. Just a bit of a test run. So, oh, that needs to come off there. So, now, I did mention in the video, or earlier on, that when you first use these, sometimes you'll find that the cardboard sucks the paint up quicker than you can stamp it down, but then after a few uses, the paint will build up and seal off the cardboard. So you can see I'm getting a good impression there. If anything, a trick would be to do this and let it fully dry and then come in and do it again. So I'm just going to come in and see how this looks. Just a bit of pressure. Don't hammer it. It's only cardboard. I think that's way cute. I didn't realize it was going to give me that chain effect. All of that chain effect may eventually go though, because over time those holes will probably get filled in by the paint. I think I just do a little bit on the edges. Just what's this bit of sun? Oh, that's a glue string. I like that. That's I'm classing that as a success. I love that. I bet you that chain effect doesn't last long though, because it'll fill in, but I'm not going to clean the stamp. I'm going to leave it be. Now I've got here a whole load of postcards, which I make my own postcards. These are sort of in-process postcards. So it just means that I'm going to use each of these just to see what we're going to do. So I think I'm going to try and put my spiral over there. Now, let's see if I can load it. Remember, I'm tapping it down, not rubbing it. I'm tapping it because I want it to pick up. I want it to build up some paint on its first use. I think I need some more paint on there. Now, I'm using black. You could use whatever colour you wish. Slightly thicker layer of paint on there. I think that will just, yeah, that's giving me what I wanted. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get it exactly on there, and give it a slight press, give it a few seconds to transfer. That's interesting. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, see this area here that there isn't a line? I must have cut this card just ever so slightly wonky, but over time, as I said, it will fill in its gaps and that paint will build up and you'll end up with a good thing on. I like that, that's good. Let's have another go at that. So just as it's building up here, there you go, it's starting to fill in already. There you go. Over time, the lines will get thicker. That's that one. Right, what should we try next? Right, I'm eager to try this because I don't know how. Oh, it's an interesting look. I've not made one like this before. So now, remember, these are only glued at the base. So if you wiggle them around, you're very likely to break them. So if you are worried, you could come in with some hot glue and put it around the edges of this just to reinforce it. Okay, that's interesting. It's almost like triangular confetti, isn't it? Just building up a background for something else. I think that's quite sweet. Let's see if there's another one that would work on. Let's put it on there. Let's do it as if it's coming down from the top. Now, another trick I would say is if you've got something that's got random shapes, every time you use it, give it a quarter turn, and therefore you won't have the pattern repeated perfectly every time. Just a little bit on there. I think that's interesting. Right, where are we up to next? Let's go to this one. I think we need something light for this. And there we go, we've got something light. Now, I usually stamp onto a gel plate underneath my paper, so there's a bit of cushioning. That sometimes helps as well, guys. So I'm just going to roll this out. I'm hoping this paint isn't drying out too much. Right, I'm a little bit aware of this one because I'm not sure that this is completely and fully dry yet. Right. Put you down, give you a press. Now, don't hammer it, because if you hammer it, you're going to be flattening your straws. There you go. So if I come in the other way, actually, if I come in on an angle, say, remember, they're straight lines. So whatever you do with it, you end up with stuff like that. So if I just come in from one angle, I've got interest there. But if I come in from this angle, and then this angle, I have a grid. So as you can see, really useful. Again, as paint builds up, that will get thicker and thicker lines on it. I'm liking those. It reminds me of a skyscape. Sounds like a Bond movie, doesn't it? Skyscape. Oh, I know why. It sounds like Skyfall, doesn't it? Right. I want to do the fish. I want the fish on something blue, obviously. Are you blue enough? You might be a bit too blue. Let's have a little bit more. There's another one. Not that fish need to be on blue. They can be on a different colour, but that's interesting. I'm eager to see that one. Actually, that one is a really good one. Right, so we'll go mad on it. So let's have that one that way up. Let's do those three. Right, let's have a go at the fish. I've been eager to try this one. This one has been on my mind for absolutely ages to do. Right, so it's going to have to be done that way, isn't it? Now, don't forget, your fish go in the direction that you wish them to go in, because you can turn this stamp either way. Get a bit of a press down. Look at that, like a fish. I'm excited about that. Oh, I moved it. Now I've got double fish. Okay. Note to self, I'm going to trim around the edge of this after you've all gone to make it more stable in my hand, because I pressed on a corner and that didn't help me. So I've got to keep it flat. I'm liking that. Those are sweet. Right, and I just wanted some across this. I've had this postcard for ages and loved it. I just haven't got around to using it yet. I'm liking that. And if I just get a pen, so if I just I've got a 0.8 here. If I just do that, they all have little eyes. Just a suggestion of the fish. Now you could come in and colour these in. You could do whatever you wish with them. See, it's just, it could be something in the background, guys. Now I've got black all over me, but never mind. Right, let's put those to one side. Now on to my last two, which I'm hoping that's a good one, which I'm hoping are dry enough to actually work on. Can I find something that I really want? That maybe. Okay, let's do the one I was planning to do first of all. I'm hoping this paint's not dried out too much, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to press the whole thing down just to make sure I've got some paint on there. Oh, look at that. Loving that. I don't know what that reminds me of something, and I can't remember what it is. Okay, that's a lovely one. Let's just try this now. This one was a bit of a gamble. I wasn't sure about this one. I'm not even sure how to hold this one, but okay, it gives me a grungy sort of look. I think because it wasn't full of straws, maybe these are not all even. But never mind, mixed in with something else, I'm also accepting that. So right, I need to clean this lot up. And I'm going to clean it up in a minute. But what I want to say is, guys, that was just sort of an introduction to, just clean my fingers when I'm talking. That's sort of just an introduction of mark making tools. Just play, just take shapes, just cut things. And I mean, one thing I would say is a really good inspiration for stuff like making these cardboard stamps is quilling. If you've ever seen quilling done, it's the art of twisting papers and making loops and things out of paper and sticking them onto a card or a surface, and you can make patterns. That's a really good resource to look at for ideas. Let's just take this out of the way, or else I get black all over my place. So guys, I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.